shiny.
Yeah, I've been having the feeling to do a run of trip reports for quite a while, so yeah, let's do that. This one, I think all of them I'll probably just try and do from memory. Some of them are long, they're massive, so they probably need notes, but I mean the main idea with reports is generally to help integration. So ideally after an experience you're going to want to let it sit for, have a sleep and a rest, and then basically the next day just write out as much as possible, everything you can remember, and then after that give it like a week and you'll find a few more bits and pieces filter through, because that's important. And what is the value of a trip if you can't remember anything about it? It's so part of the integration process is to gather all those. It's like remembering a dream in a lot of ways. Just gather all the pieces out and like grab a few threads and just pull them through, and then it'll be in your conscious mind to let it sort of sit and sort of embed itself over time. We don't run around tripping every single day of our lives. We have an experience, and then the idea is to build that into, who you are, to ideally improve yourself as a human being and the way you live your life. So with all that said, this one is about, it's just a little baby one to start with, like why not ease into it sort of thing. This is just a Changa one and a low dose Changa one. So I was living in a house at the time, and I had a very special batch of Chang in the cupboard, and I would do it extremely rarely, so like once a year at the most, maybe once every 6 months, if I was feeling cold to it, which I never really was. Never really enjoyed pure DMT for the reasons I just went through. Is just you couldn't remember anything from it. So very powerful experience, but like at the end of the day, it might as well have not happened for all the good it did in my life. It's just can't really make sense of any of it. But that's for another report, I suppose. So for this one, maybe a little bit of context there. I did have pure DMT crystal and did not enjoy it at all, and I kept trying to break through on it, and it was just horrific. I did not cope well with pure DMT. It's just like very different to other psychedelic experiences, and like, for example, like with mushrooms, you might go in with an intention or a question, but DMT doesn't give a fuck about your intentions or questions, and it just doesn't map onto, physical life on Earth. It's just hyperdimensional insanity. So after tinkering with DMT and getting just slapped around and, just having like my courage threshold pushed to limits, like before smoking DMT, I'd be shaking, like physically shaking. And then after getting back from smoking pure DMT, I'd be still physically shaking for like 10 minutes either side of it. So mainly just from like the insanity and like the fear of it, just like you're not having a DMT experience. It's like kicking in your living room wall and taking you fucking into their world. You're like pulled from this dimension into another one, and it's just like nothing is mapping. Like nothing has prepared me for this. Previous DMT, previous psychedelics has not prepared me for this, and it never will. It's just extraordinary, but beyond the limits of what you can conceive of as extraordinary. It's its own special sort of category. So after learning from experience and finding the way my system responded with DMT, I decided to use everything I had left to make a big, well, not a big, but just a basically tiny little, very small special batch of Chang. And not super weak. I'd made a very weak one in the past and it was not strong enough at all. It was more, more just learning about the intention that go into Chang. So I'd find that that's pretty much the main key ingredient that you put in, and it's like the unlisted one. It's not technically one of the physical ingredients, but your intentions do absorb in during the download when you're making and preparing the herbs and sort of at that critical phase of letting it all evaporate sort of thing. So before, anyway, I can explain that. I'm sure you can just find out for yourself if you want to learn how to make it anyway. But that was a very fun process to do, and there was a lot of good intention put into this batch, and I had tinkered with it a couple of times and found it to be much more earthed and grounded, and it's not a super strong batch. It's about 4-1, so yeah, I'm normally pretty on point with measurements and weights and everything, but with Chang it's just like half a cone or a cone, and then figuring out the best technique, the most efficient technique really, to be able to use it without wasting the material. So this special batch was sitting in the cupboard, basically forgotten about, because although I did have what I would consider to be decent experiences with that Chang, I also had some rough ones too that sort of put me off and made me just think, why bother with it if it's not going to be enjoyable and it's not going to make sense at all? I just forget it. And yeah, fast forward 6 months, maybe 9 months, I don't know, but I was getting ready to head out to the closest forest and river to the city and go for a swim and be in nature. And as I was gathering my things to get ready to go, I basically heard the call of my Chang in the cupboard just saying, "Take me with you." I was like, really? I've never had Chang call me before, but you know, it wasn't one of my own thoughts. It was a thing, and kind of tuned into that sort of thing from communicating with mushrooms. So I just said, okay, I'll take it along. Grabbed that and just like a hash pipe sort of thing, and whatever else I felt like I could do with, and headed out to the river just on my own. Fairly mild, normal day, probably a weekday, pretty quiet, and I managed to find like a good quiet little spot where I wasn't going to be disturbed by people walking dogs and whatever. So I was sitting there. I probably had a swim first and then was dried off, and was just sitting on the side of the bank, on the riverbank, just looking out across the water and at the trees on the other side, pretty much in my element. And I'd been in communications with some friends on Discord at some point who recommended doing it by running water out in nature, and it just seemed like a very good idea to me. To give it a try in that setting. And yeah, there's no wind, sitting there, loaded up the pipe. I smoked a bit of tobacco for the little bit extra Mayo inhibitors beforehand, and it was just, I don't know, probably breathing and meditating a little bit to prepare myself, and quite calm and relaxed, which is the It was nowhere near the level of anxiety that I had before pure DMT. It was like I knew this batch, I'd tried it before, I knew kind of what to expect and the dose that would be. I wasn't aiming for a massive breakthrough, just reality obliterating blast off. I was just wanting to ease in and test out a new technique with the pipe and just check in and say hi basically and see. I had no intention, no question, nothing in mind, no motive for it. It was just very open and very just like, well, I'm just going to show up because I've had a call to do so. So had a pipe loaded, there's no wind. As soon as I went to smoke the pipe, wind came from wherever it comes from nowhere, and blew out the lighter. So that was a little bit weird. It was just like I'm trying to show up for this call and it's just like blowing out the flame when it was like wind free for like the whole time before then, as far as I could tell. So I just waited a bit and eventually got it to light and toked on it slowly and just eased in, and it kind of came in. I had my eyes open. It came in quite sharply, which you can get a lot of the time on ayahuasca and DMT. The visuals can be kind of jagged and sort of, I guess, in your energetic field or your aura, whatever you want to call it, you can normally you don't really perceive it, but it sort of lights up and you can feel beyond your body, and it feels like these visions can be quite invasive and kind of stabbing into you. So it wasn't like huge big spikes like I've had before in ayahuasca. It was kind of more thin spindles, almost like cactus spines, sort of coming from like out in front of me down, and just come in and started like, I call it combing my astral hair, just sort of clearing and cleansing my psychic mud, I suppose, like combing it out, and in that sharp way that it likes to do. Quite piercing, but I was patient with it, and it was not a new experience for me at that point to have like a cleansing from it. I just sort of sat sat with it and then eased in a little bit deeper, but basically like only just really getting in. There weren't huge crazy visuals. It was like everything sort of brightened up and was a lot clearer, but it wasn't distracting. I could still be aware of my environment and the place that I was in and that sort of thing. And after this cleansing, I had like a couple of tears just roll down the side, just out my eyes, probably both of them, I don't remember, but I had this intuition say, these are clear tears, they're not salty, these ones. And it felt different to a normal tear, whatever that is. And I wasn't particularly emotional or upset about anything consciously at the time, but just like a release and this intuition that these are clear and not salty, which tears normally are salty. And so I put my finger up and just wiped one off my face and tasted it, and sure enough, it was like pure water. There was no salt in that tear at all. It was completely clear and clean, and they're quite big, like big drops. So yeah, decent. Even it wasn't like a huge waterfall. I wasn't like breaking down crying. It was just just a couple, 2 or 3 of them, and I found that remarkable. And then that was pretty much the highlight of it. It was just such a low dose and such a chilled setting, and I wasn't aiming to push super hard because I'd done that before and was over it. I just kind of wanted to check in and be respectful and as calm as possible and just open as possible. And after that, I was just sort of cruising at that level for probably 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20. I don't recall if I had music on or not. It was probably not, just listening to the trees and the air and everything. And there was a little family of ducks over the other side of the river, just sort of hanging out. And the middle of the day, maybe it was like late morning or early afternoon, and like a little family, so like not tiny baby ducks, but yeah, like maybe teenage ducks. I'm not familiar with how like their lifespan works and whatever, but for some reason I was just looking at them and I just like was just loving them absolutely to bits. I was just like really just deeply appreciating and enjoying just the beauty of these creatures. You know, it was I was just beaming at them, just like wow, like just how exquisite and like how precious of a moment to just be sitting there, like really content and at peace and calm, and like slightly high and tripping, and just like you're so beautiful, you ducks, and just thank you for existing. It's just wonderful to witness you and to see you. And they kind of picked up on it and were just it's almost like they appreciated me appreciating them. They weren't really used to it, as far as I could tell, if that makes sense. You know, I didn't really get any messages or anything from them. It was more just like they didn't mind me being there, whereas they're pretty wild and not really tame and coming up close to humans ordinarily. From what I could tell, they were just wild animals. So to have them not be freaked out by me being around, like it's I like when that happens, and it's usually when I'm on psychedelics and having like a good connective experience with nature. Animals would just no longer really seem to be freaked out by my presence. In fact, they're almost like curious about why I'm so different to other humans that they normally see stomping around, I suppose. Like, that's the impression I get anyway. So just sat for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes, just like lovingly observing these ducks and just breathing and just being by them, you know, just being around. And they swam over to me. They were on the other side of the river with a flowing current and everything, and they just kicked their little legs, and like the whole family came over to my side of the bank, like basically directly to me. And like, they didn't come up and sit on my lap, you know, and ask me to read them a bedtime story, but they came over towards me, which I just love that. And yeah, last night after recording videos and doing a little bit of rough editing, just had a quick look around what else was sitting on the desktop, and found some footage of that part where they came over to me. So yeah, wanted to start with something nice and short and simple and easy to do and easy to remember. Like, that was basically the whole experience. But it was memorable mainly for those two parts, like the I guess the wisdom to be okay with a low dose. You know, I used to be very just like get in and smash like a biggest dose that you can handle, and like just like blast through and, you know, take it as it comes, like deal with it as it comes. But to have just a sense of calm and a sense of respect for the material, the medicine, the drug, the substance, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? So the clear tears thing, there's something to that, and it sort of ties in with other trips now as well since that time. But that was a new experience for me, and it's something that will definitely stay with me. And I'm very glad it was, you know, fully retained in memory, and I didn't have to work hard to try to fish things out later, or spend a full week trying to get all the details. And it wasn't like that. It was just very simple, very direct, and very easy to take on board and appreciate. You know, just I don't understand much about it, but I do appreciate when I make the effort to show up and I get like an energetic cleansing. Yeah, just I appreciate that, and I'm always thankful because the thing with cleansing, it's like, well, when it's all mucked up in here, you don't have the insight to be able to understand that you need to do a cleanse. It's like, I think last night I was thinking about it. That's part of the value of having a healer around in a community or a tribe, is to see from another perspective, like, oh, you've got some muck there that we could just like let go of. Basically, we could clear that out, and everything, there's 600 problems you think you're having right now, and that it can all just be reset into just an existence, an experience of being alive and existing and breathing, and like that on its own is so pure and so just calming, when it's just like, it's almost like you feel if you get rid of it all, you're not going to figure out whatever you're trying to understand, or you're going to like forget everything, or you're going to lose something, but it's all still there if you wanted to think about whatever it is that's on your mind. It's not like it gets taken away and flushed down the toilet or whatever. It's like it gets cleared away just to allow breathing space for, yeah, just like letting it all settle to have like a clear kind of foundation and like a refresh or a reboot sort of thing for your system. So yeah, that's about it. I'll record another one after this, and it'll probably be longer, so enjoy the fact that this is only 20 minutes long. Peace. Wow, I actually swam over here.